1 Epoch of Twilight, page 2, 595, chapter 2. Gatang Town, translator, editor. A part of Dong. City Gatang Town was a small independent city with convenient transportation and a well-developed economy. However, its forestry resource is were poor with its limit. It given revenue and additional income. The forestry station seemed much more desolate compared to the lofty police station about 10 meters away. On walked into the lobby of the building. There were only a few workers at the reception counter, and all of them were either playing card games or chatting it up. He went straight up to the second floor. The chief officer was not in Solwoyu, and could only knock on the door of the deputy chief officer. Come in. He opened the door and entered the office. A plump, middle-aged man was inside. He had big bags under his eyes, which looked a little swollen. He took a quick glance at Woyu and asked what's the matter before he resumed reading the document on his desk. Woyu did not like being ignored, but he forced a smile and said, "Hi, I'm Chen Weijing's brother-in-law. He came to Gat Ang Town for an inspection with the city council supervisor yesterday, and hasn't returned yet. My sister has sent me here to check on him. Do you know where they went?" The middle-aged man finally raised his head, the shock evident on his face. "Supervisor, he and Chen did not come back. Hold on, let me make call." He stood up, took out his phone, and made call after call, the beads of sweat on his forehead teeming more and more by the minute. A few minutes later, he finally slumped back against his chair. "Where did they go yesterday?" Woyu asked curiously. "Yesterday, Supervisor, Mayor Xia, Chief Officer Wang, and Chen went up the hill for inspection after lunch. They should have been back by yesterday already. Have you called Chen? Is it possible that he's gone somewhere else?" he asked nervously. Advertisement. Woyu was startled. This felt like a bad omen in his heart. He quickly replied, "My sister has called him several times, and I visited the Ministry of Forestry this morning. As well, his manager told me that my brother-in-law and his supervisor have not returned yet, and that it's possible that they're still on the hill. The most important thing to do now is to get help from the police." Yes, the man nodded his head. If anything happened to the superiors, not only would the local government be criticized, but he himself would also be fired from his position as deputy chief officer. He quickly stood up and made a call. "Hello. Chief Inspector Z, I'm Cao Ming, who from the forestry station. Yes, I'll be heading over in. Well, it's difficult to explain over the phone. I'm coming over right now." He hung up the phone and said, "Come on, follow me to the police station." Woyu and Deputy Chief Officer Cao quickly left and went to the nearby police station. 10 minutes later, Deputy Chief Officer Cao walked into the Chief Inspector's office along with Woyu and explained everything one more time. Chief Inspector Z was alarmed, and he stood up, accusing him. "How could it take you so long to realize it's almost 24 hours?" Seeing Cao Ming, whose grim expression, he gave a wave of the hand. "Let me call P.A. Zhao." He then took out his phone and walked out of his office. He looked very serious when he returned. "Both of you go back and wait. I'll get my people to go up the hill. I'll make sure they find them all. Right, we trust you, Chief Inspector Z. Cao Ming, who nodded solemnly and got ready to leave. Woyu realized that it was none of his business, but he had to go work on the case himself, or else the mission could not be completed. He quickly said, "Chief Inspector Z, I want to go to. It's very dangerous on the hill, and we don't have the man power to protect you. Wait here patiently." Okay, Chief Inspector Z rejected his proposal with a frown. "I know that it's dangerous, but that's my brother-in-law. How can I just stay here and wait? I've had some combat training before. I promise I won't be a burden to you." Woyu said, trying to appear anxious. Chief Inspector Z took a look at Woyu, and the man was tall and muscular. Obviously, he had been working out and could possibly be of help up on the hill. "Okay, but you need to follow the orders." "I promise I'll follow them." Woyu answered immediately. Chief Inspector Z dialed on his phone again before speaking. "Captain Chen, have 3 members on call right now and report to my office. Barely a moment after he had hung up, a lean-tanned middle-aged man came in. "The office, Chief Inspector, you asked for me." "Yes, put your work on hold for now. There's a more pressing matter. A few superiors from the city and Mayor Xia have gone missing on the hill. I want your team to find them now." The man's facial expression turned serious at once. "I'll go right away. Is there anything else, Chief Inspector?" "Yes, this is Woyu, and one of the victim's family members. He wants to come take him along." He took a peek at Woyu, and replied, "All right, I'm leaving right now." He then spoke to Woyu, and coldly, "Follow me." The two of them left the office. There were already 3 people waiting in the corridor, 2 men and a woman, all whom looked younger than 30. Of course Woyu On's eyes would set on the young woman. She wore a short-sleeved police uniform shirt. Her waist was slim and her breasts pert, and her long legs were clad in a pair of nude stockings below the hem of her police uniform skirt. She was like a ripe peach, absolutely alluring. "Guess this is what people call a uniform fetish," Woyu and thought as he shifted his gaze to the 2 men. One of them was around 30 years old, tall, with a face full of pimples and a crew cut. If not for his police uniform, he could certainly pass for a mugger. The other man looked like the epitome of innocence. He seemed to be new to work. "Captain Chen, what do we have today? How come it's so urgent?" Crewcut asked Captain Chen, his tone not very respectful. "We'll talk about it later. Everyone change into a long-sleeved uniform and get your weapons ready. We are going up the hill." Wang Fi, "Get a uniform for Woyu. Unto he's coming with us," he ordered the rookie while he looked at Crewcut. "Yes, Captain." Wang Fi replied immediately before turning to Woyu. "And follow me. You must be the same size as me, right? You won't mind wearing my uniform, will you?" "Of course not, thank you." Woyu and smiled and asked Sergeant Wang, "You just passed the civil servant test this year, didn't you?" Wang Fi laughed and said, "I didn't pass. I graduated from the police academy. I came here to be a defense team member using some connections, but I can transfer if I perform well. Anyway, let's get to work now. That doesn't sound bad. At least the benefits should be good." "They're decent enough to survive," was the man's reply, but his tone was mixed with a hint of determination. He took 2 sets of uniforms and 2 pairs of boots out of his locker and handed one of them to Woyu. And the weather had been warm and humid lately, and it was evident that the long-sleeved uniform had been rolled out for a short period of time, as it smelled moldy, but over all it was still clean. When Woyu was done changing, Crewcut came in and tapped Woyu. On's head could pass as a policeman. "Where are you from, kid? How come you're following us up the hill?" Woyu and was a bit unhappy and moved his head out of the way discreetly while smiling. "My brother-in-law has gone missing on the hill. I'm coming along to search for him. My name is Woyu." "And what should I call you?" "Just call me Zhao Zhang." Zhao Zhang knew that he had annoyed the young man and grinned. "Don't mind me, it's an old habit. So who is your brother-in-law?" "He works for the Ministry of Forestry." Woyu answered vaguely and ignored Zhao Zhang in favor of asking Wang Fi, "Can you give me a gun for self-defense? I heard it's quite dangerous in the forest." Wang Fi shook his head. "I can't simply give you a gun. It's against the rules." "No way." Woyu quickly asked, "How about a knife or something? You can't have me going into the forest completely unarmed, right?" This was an F mission. It would definitely be very dangerous for him to go in without a weapon. "Oh, okay, let me ask Captain Chen." Wang Fi walked out of the locker room. A moment later he came back and said, "No gun, but you can have a knife. We've seized a lot of them. Anyway, I'll take you to the storeroom." The 2 of them went to the storeroom, which was located at the end of the corridor. Wang Fi opened one of the big backs. There were all sorts of weapons inside: knives, watermelon knives, daggers, fruit knives, machetes, butcher knives. It was like a collection of domestic-use sharp weapons. "Pick any one," Wang Fi said generously, considering there were snakes and other similar creatures around the area, as well as rattan and twigs on the hill. Woyu supposed that a short weapon like a dagger would be practically useless, while a watermelon knife seemed too fragile and would not be able to inflict much damage. After some consideration, he decided a machete used for hacking and chopping. Luoyu unslashed through the air a few times to try out how it felt in his hands, and was rather satisfied with it. At the same time he whispered identity, I silently, and a string of words appeared in his head. Sharp machete, material, alloy rarity, white weight, arc sharpness 10, 15, equipment requirement, strength 9. Remarks this is a modern agricultural weapon, suitable for land reclamation, wood chopping, and of course capable of killing. Its quality is average, but the blade is strong, it's perfect for hacking and chopping. Not bad, it's sharper than the kitchen knives at home. Woyi. Unthought before saying this one, let's go then, Captain Chen is waiting for us, Wang Fi said. The two of them went out the entrance, where everyone was already waiting inside the police car. Luoyi unpicked up his pace and quickly got in the car. The car took off and headed for the outskirts. After a while they drove down an avenue and turned into a small road. Both sides of the road were framed by endless green fields. This is the farmland, right? Luoyu asked, unsure. Weeds were all over the farmland. Surprisingly, they reached about a meter in height, covering the soil completely. It looked like a green ocean whenever the wind blew. I guess so. The female cop, sitting at the passenger seat, also seemed surprised. I don't remember the grass being this lush when I came by about 10 days ago. This is unbelievable. The weeds are going to take over the road soon. If the weeds have already grown up to this height, won't it be worse in the forest? How could you accept this mission, Captain Chen? It's possible that all of us could go missing too. Zhao Zhang joked. True, I've heard that it's very dangerous up the hill now, the woman added. Tell Chief Inspector Z if you dare. Then why are you telling me? You could talk to the inspector if you wanted to. I can't help on this ish, Captain Chen replied grimly. He was preoccupied by the sudden increase in missing persons case. Is as well, there had already been 5 people missing, and most of them had come from the village near Zhuhill. He was more aware of the dangers of Zhuhill than anyone else. However, he could do nothing but obey the chief inspector's orders. I guess it can't be that dangerous on the hill, right? All of us are carrying weapons. We could handle the situation even if we come across a wild boar. Luo tried diverting the conversation. If they continued to discuss this further, the policemen might just go back to the police station. After a short drive, that was when the policeman realized that there was a relative of one of the victims with them. All right, stop discussing this, we're policemen. If we surrendered this easily every time we faced adversities, everyone would be laughing at us. We will go up this hill, and we'll head back. If it's too dangerous, at least we'll have done something. What do you think, Luoyu? Captain Chen said. Sure, if we were all in danger, I think my brother-in-law would do the same thing. Luoyu replied softly. This was his only choice for now. He could only give up if the mission became too dangerous. Though this would deduct a lot of his EXP, it was still better than losing his life. Half an hour later, they drove into a remote village and made a stop there. Luoyu got out of the police car and looked towards the front. The hill was a stretch of dark green, its eminence less than 200 meters, yet it was enough to distress Luoyu. And it's almost 11 a.m. Let's have lunch first, and we'll depart for the hill in an hour. Captain Chen shifted his gaze from the hill to his watch as he made his way to a roadside store.